Hi, my name is Randy Brown for Vlogging with Mr. Brown, and here are 7 ways to get her number. Now, I bet you're asking yourself right about well, Randy, if you know all these really cool techniques to get numbers, how come you're not rolling in it? And there is 2 simple caveats to these techniques that I will teach you. But these 7 techniques can be applied to a plethora of things, not just asking a girl for a number, like the conversational postulate, why ask why, the double bind. All those techniques can be used in a variety of different ways, which I will teach you. But I'm going to get to those 2 caveats after I've done this thing. So let's go ahead and start with Part 1, Conversational Postulate. In NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, a conversational postulate is where you ask a rhetorical question that implies an answer. Like, if I ask you, can you close the door? That's a yes or no question. That's not a command, but most people will take it as a command. And there is a simple 2-word phrase that you can use to use a conversational postulate, and those words are "can you," and you can actually transpose those words, and you can put "you can." So if you want a girl for a number, just say, "You can give me your number if you want to," or "Can you give me your number?" You just applied a conversational postulate, and like I said, this specific technique can be applied to several different things. Like, you could buy right now if you want to. Can you make a decision? You can do whatever you want to as long as you give me your money. Stuff like that. So that's the first one, conversational postulate, and it can start with you can or can you. The next technique I call the why ask why technique. And basically what you do is you turn a yes or no question into a why question by starting the question with why. So in this instance, you're asking a girl, can I get your number? And now she has the option to say yes or no. And depending on how much rapport you built, if you haven't built up enough, she's probably going to say no. But now you take this question and you turn it into a why question, which is an open-ended question, and go, why don't you give me your number? Now, this is still a yes or no question. But now, if she refuses, she has to come up with a reason in order for her not to give you her number. And, that reason will be awkward and painful. And then, most of the time she'll just be like, hold on, let me get a pen. So. The next one is a way to ask any girl out on a date, not just to get their number, but on a date. This one is called the It's My World, You Can Come Too technique. And the way this technique works is basically, let's say you want to take a girl out to a concert or a movie or, anywhere. You could be like, hey, you want to go to the movies with me sometime? Now that question probably will not work. Unless you developed, like I said, developed a lot of rapport. That's not going to work for you. So what you can do is you can use the It's My World, You Can Come Too technique, which basically goes like this. Hey, some friends and I are going to the movies. You can come too if you want. Now, that is a very indirect way of asking a girl out on a date. And, you can always take your friends along and, have like a little, group date with them. Not a group date, but you know what I mean. You can go on a date and bring some friends along, or you could say, hey, you know what? My friends couldn't show up. I guess it's just you and me. Now, this is a very indirect way of asking a girl out on a date, and like I said, you're not asking her out on a specific date with you. You're asking, just if she wants to come along, and it takes the pressure off. And and she always has the option to go, nah, I don't feel like it. And you didn't ask her out on a specific date, so the pressure is off on you too. The next question, this next technique I used on a woman who looks exactly like Scarlett Johansson, and she did give me her number. This is called the what do I have to do or say to X. And basically what you do is you preface whatever you want to do and with the question, what do I have to say or do to whatever you want to do? So what do I have to say or do to get your number? And she didn't even speak. She just like busted out a pen and wrote down her number. But again, this technique is one of the techniques that you can use to get just about anything. Like, what do I have to say or do to go to the movies? Or what do I have to say or do to get you to buy me some Chinese food? What do I have to say or do to make this sale? And, sometimes you will get a direct affirmative response. But in other cases, people will tell you what you have to say or do to get your outcome. You know, like you could ask a girl, "What do I have to say or do to get your number?" And she might say something as simple as, "Buy me a drink," or "You know what, take me home with you," or "You know what, buy me something to eat," or "Buy me some chips." You know, and this question, although most of the time it is just answered in the affirmative, people will tell you how to convince them to do whatever you want them to do. The next approach, this one works for me a lot. It's called the indirect approach. And the indirect approach basically works like this. And you want to use this one after you've been talking with a girl for some time. You want to build up a fair bit of rapport before you ask this question. But, if you've been talking for more than 3 or 4 minutes and you've been vibing and you've been getting it on, at the end, when you got to go, just say, "Hey, look, I really enjoyed our conversation. Is there any way we can keep in touch?" And believe it or not, that question works a lot of times. It works a lot of times, and it has gotten me a lot of numbers, and in some instances, emails. But this technique works hella good. The next approach is another approach that works in a variety of situations. This one is called the double bind. And the double bind works like this. If you were going to write it out as a Mad Lib, it would be blank or blank. And both those outcomes that you fill in the blank with, you would want to be your outcome. So either way, you get your outcome, whether they choose blank or whether they choose blank. So, in a car selling situation, you could ask a person, "So, do you want to buy this Ferrari?" And they could be like, "Yeah," or "Nah." But when you're using a double blind, blank or blank, you could be like, "Hey, which Ferrari do you want more, the red one or the blue one?" And they'd be like, "Well, I like the blue one." And then, boom, you've got a sale. Or, would you rather pay by cash or check? Now, the thing is that in those last two examples, do you want the red Ferrari or the blue Ferrari, or do you want to pay by cash or check? It's presupposed that you are going to get your outcome. Because whether they say they want to pay by cash or whether they want to pay by check, well, either option, they're giving you their money. So that's basically how it works. And in the case of dating and like asking for numbers, a really simple way to get your outcome is be like, "Hey, you know what? I think you're pretty cool. Do you want to give me your number, or should I contact you by Facebook?" And a lot of women aren't ready to give their numbers, but they'll give their Facebook out like crazy. Okay. And the last technique is the boldest of all the techniques, because this technique is called command the number. And this is basically where you tell a woman, "You know what, give me your number, we'll hang out." But you do not want to just say that outright. You want to build up a little rapport, and you want to ask what I call a dating question. And the dating question is something like, "So what do you like to do?" And she'll say, "Oh, I like to go out and ride roller coasters all the time. I'm a really big roller coaster enthusiast." And this is where to be like, "You know what? Give me your number. I'll take you to a roller coaster park." Or, if she says she likes Chinese food, be like, "Give me your number. I'll take you to a cool Chinese food restaurant." And that last technique is called command the number, because you do not ask her for her number. You just tell her, "Give me your number. We'll hang out." And again, you want to ask a dating question. You want to find out what she's like. what she likes. If she likes coffee shops, she'll be like, you know what, give me your number. I know a good coffee shop. We could hang out. So there are basically the 7 ways that you can ask for a number, and in some instances you're not asking, but you know what I mean. So we got the conversational postulate. It starts with you can or can you. We got the why ask why technique, where you turn a yes or no question into a why question. We got the it's my world you can come to technique. We got the what do I have to do or say to X. We've got the indirect approach. We got the double mind, and then we got command the number. Now, here is the caveat to these techniques, or any technique where you get a woman's number. I mean, you could just ask her outright for a number. But here are the 2 caveats to asking for a number. Number 1, numbers do not mean shit. They don't mean anything. Because no matter how good looking you are, no matter what kind of technique you use, sometimes women will give you fake numbers, and in some instances, women will scribble their number purposely, and they will give you a number that's a bunch of curly Q's, and 6 could look like a 3, 2, 9, 7, 8, or 5. So there's always that. Number 1, sometimes when a woman gives you a number, she's not giving you her number, she's giving you a number to make you go away. So that's the first caveat. And then the second caveat is simply this. Numbers do not mean shit unless they lead to a second date. Okay? Now, if you bumble the phone call when you call her, if you call her too late, if you call her too early, that can turn a woman off. And even though you got a number, it doesn't really mean anything unless that number turns into a date. So, sometimes women don't give you the right numbers, sometimes on purpose, sometimes bad handwriting. And then secondly, numbers do not mean jack unless you follow them up. Like, you can be getting 100 numbers in a week, but it doesn't matter. Because if she doesn't give you the right number, or if you don't get another date and you never see that woman again, then getting a number means nothing. Okay, so there you go. So there are 7 ways to get her number. I think it's a pretty cool and unusual techniques that I'm giving out. I haven't heard these techniques anywhere else. But there you go. My name's Randy Brown for Blogging with Mr. Brown, and there are 7 ways to get her number. All right? And I will see you later.